Ahoy everyone and welcome to another video where today I have a very special guest. I have Raphael over from Orthodox Review coming all the way over to Reason Belief to have just a little, cozy chat about books and just be a bit nerdy about, certain things and stuff like that. So Raphael, how are you, brother?
Better than I deserve.
Amen. Amen to that. That's such an orthodox answer, isn't it?
You know what? Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I stole it from someone.
Did it come from
I
Dave Ramsey?
probably um,
I don't know.
a lot of little things I've picked up over the years. I realize have come from like old talks from Father Thomas Hopko of blessed memory.
Yeah.
So that sounds like something he might have mentioned,
Mm,
but I'm sure I'm not the only one that says that either. So,
no.
but either way, it is very true. So.
Yes, exactly. Um, so I was hoping that, during our little bit of a chat, a bit of an informal chinwag about certain bits and pieces, perhaps we could start
Mhm.
off sort of just by, telling your story, like how you well, I mean, you're known on the internet as the guy with one and a half thumbs.
Yes,
Which
I am.
is the
Old Nubby.
yeah. I was hoping, if we could work in how that happened into
Sure.
your story as to how you came to Holy Orthodoxy.
Sure. Actually, I lost my thumb months before smacking my head directly into Orthodoxy. I was married at the time. I was living in an apartment building downtown Wilmington, North Carolina. Beautiful old building built by some architect that the same architect that designed the New York Public Library of all places designed this apartment building down here and was like, I want to bring a little slice of New York down here. So it's from the early 1900s and, beautiful building, but it wasn't made for moving modern appliances through. So I was between restaurants at the time, and my wife and I are living on the fifth floor there, and I'm doing some side work for the owner. And so his handyman, his super, and I are moving this massive stove one day from actually my neighbor's apartment. We needed to put it in the basement. And in order to access the basement with something this big, we had to go outside, so elevator down, then down the front steps, around the side, and there was a set of steps that went down to the basement, to the outside, kind of like the loading area. But there was a step up and then steps down. And so we got this thing on a dolly, hand truck, whatever you want to call it. And having worked for moving companies when I was younger, I was like, okay, well, all we need to do is lift it up this way, and I'll brace like this, and we'll just pop, 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 pop. And the man, God bless him, not a bad guy, but just thick-headed as all get out. It was his way, or it wasn't going to happen. And see, he insisted on turning the dolly the other way, and me holding the handles like so, backing down the stairs. Well, he guided it, and I knew it was a bad idea, but I figured we'd get one step down and he'd realize his mistake, and then,
Mm.
well, upon just getting it up on the first step, he lost control of it and it tilted, and this stove came straight at me. It tore my thumb off against the wall as I was trying to dodge it. I
Oof.
parried right, and the stove decided to parry right that way as well. So it tore the thumb, busted me in the head, and that was that. And my upstairs neighbor happened to be coming home with his fiance at that time. And of course, I'm like, at first, I just thought you know how like you smash your finger or whatever, and it's kind of stunned, and that's what it felt like. I was like, oh, ooh, ooh, ow, ow, and I immediately grabbed it, and then I opened it, and I saw that it was shorter than it used to be. And that's when the adrenaline really kicked in. Like, we need to go to the hospital. And he's like, why? What happened? And I just took my hand away and I wiggled what was left of my thumb at him. I was like, call an ambulance, we gotta go. And shock set in shortly after that, and I was a mess. But my neighbor that was crossing the street at the time, he called an ambulance, and they found the thumb, or what was left of it. And so by the time the paramedics got there, they had the thumb on ice. They went up to the hospital, and they sewed it back on as best they could, and it just died within a couple days. It was just the abrasion was too off. It wasn't a clear cut. Pardon me. It was torn off. So I went back, and they took it off and had to cut the bone back. They saved the knuckle, which for years and years and to this very day is still very sensitive. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I'm okay with it. It's been 13 years now. So that's how I lost my thumb, and not a fun experience by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I'd be a bit concerned for you if you said if it was a fun experience.
Yeah, well, at the time, I didn't understand a lot of things theologically that my grandmother would say to me. My grandmother was an old school Roman Catholic and extremely devout. Yeah. And she would say things like, offer it up to God. And at the time I had no idea, and of course I didn't want to ask her what that meant. But I was like, well, how do I offer an injury up to God? And of course now I know it's just like, well, it's a sacrifice. It's the glory to God for all things. You took this from me. What do I learn? And how do I use it? And so on and so forth. But I went through kind of an existential crisis for a while because I had to relearn how to write. I had to relearn how to play a guitar. It took me years to be able to hold the guitar properly again. So it was pretty jarring. But in the end, it's the way I offer it up to God now is I use it as a comedic prop to share my faith. So it all worked out well. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't too long after that. I was in the Episcopal Church at the time, and I was taking a course called EFM, Education for Ministry, because I wanted to go to seminary. I wanted to be a priest, and so this was kind of like a precursor. And after about a year and a half of this, and I'm learning church history and basic theology and stuff, and things weren't lining up. And then other people in the class, I think one of the biggest things to me was they were discussing the filioque, and they were just laughing about it, And I was like, this. First of all, you're telling me that our church isn't following the ancient formula by including the filioque in the creed. But people that are wanting to be clergy in this church are having a giggle about it's oh, why, what's the big deal sort of thing. It's it's a huge deal. And so I stopped reciting that in the creed. But it wasn't too long after that I started asking myself, I was like, well, where's that first millennia church? If it's not the Catholic Church, what happened to all these other churches that we say broke off? There was no mention about Orthodoxy or the Eastern churches or anything like that. And so as Providence would have it, as God ordained, we were also part of a greater ecumenical lecture series that we had in town at the time called Theology Pub. I know a lot of people use that name for podcasts and stuff, but this was 2012. And the lecture series that year was on liturgical music. And so one week, the speaker was my now dear brother in Christ, the reader Christopher McGarvey, who was the choir director at St. Basil's Orthodox Church at the time. Um, and so he brought in a CD and played some music that sounded like it was being sung by angels. I was like, this is otherworldly. And he was like, in the Orthodox Church, I was like, what's that? And he's like, well, in the Orthodox Church, we sing everything, we chant everything. And I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it at the time because I'd never experienced the Divine Liturgy before. And I was also like very, I had a very Protestant mindset at the time that it's like, no, it's like it has to fit the framework that I'm my own pope sort of thing. And even though I loved beauty, I didn't at the time want to relinquish any sort of control or admit that I was wrong about anything. Just very self-centered. But he's like, hey, just come check it out sometime. It's gonna kill you. It's like, all right. And so the next Sunday, I went there, and we were a mission at the time. We were in a little warehouse space. There was maybe 20 people there, if that, 15 probably. But I went in there, and I looked a little rough around the edges. And this wonderful Lebanese couple from New York greeted me and wouldn't leave me alone. They were so happy to see a new face. I had a lot more piercings at the time. So anyway, and I went in, and even though it was like this warehouse that had a very nice shade of blue painted all around it and some icons, and I stood there for 2 hours, and it kind of clicked with me that I was like, oh, there's a right way and a wrong way, and this is the right way. So it doesn't matter whether I agree with it or not right this second. If this is the correct way to do it, if this is the right worship of God, that's the way I want to do it. And for the first time in my life, I committed to something kind of blindly. And throughout my catechesis and everything, I had to amend things. Like when we come into the church, it's a struggle, and they say it's a struggle, and the struggle never ends. And it's these days the struggle is, I got to get up and say my prayers and do this, that, the other thing. In the beginning, the struggle was like, there are things about our fallen nature that I can no longer stand idly by and just take. There are things that, whether I understand why they're wrong or not, I have to be like, no, that's just, God said we should try not to do that thing, so let's try not to do that thing, just conquering sin. And ultimately, it contributed to my, the dissolution of my marriage, lost a lot of friends, and I would not change that for for anything. It was so strange and so different, and yet it felt, and I know we shouldn't really rely too much on feelings, but I have to say it felt like the right thing to do. And that was confirmed in everything that's happened since. So I guess that's the medium length version of my conversion, with the thumb addendum.
Thumb addendum, I love it. I think that really sort of echoes a lot of people's experience into coming into the church, and it echoes what we see about what Christ tells us within the Gospels, where he says, to pick up your cross and carry me, to what does it benefit a man to gain the whole world but not inherit
lose his soul?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or more so than that, and the one that most people I think struggle with is like, he that does not deny father or brother, has no place. in
Mm.
the kingdom. And it's like, for the longest time, I was like, what does that mean? And it's just like, no, it's like, I'm either with Christ or I'm not. And if I'm with Christ, it doesn't matter what friends, family, enemies, whoever over here says, like, if my choices are that or Christ, I'm going with Christ. Like, I
Mm.
have to. Like, I don't want to lose eternal life. I would like very much to try to gain that. And so, sorry, like, I'd like you to come with me, but it's, yeah. I mean, these are hard sayings. I mean, and
Yeah.
his disciples couldn't even handle it half the time, So
Yeah.
it's like, who the hell are we? So, but we try.
Yeah. Exactly. We struggle, and and again, that's the Orthodox experience, because Orthodoxy, contrary to what people may see, they come across it online. It is a
Yeah,
lived faith. It's not a theological position. It's
exactly.
a way of living. It's a way of being. It's a way of experiencing God,
hmm
and that's
That's something I often tell people is like, listen, faith is not an academic pursuit.
mm,
I mean, it's cool to learn stuff. Like, if you want to be a book nerd about it, be a book nerd about it. I'm all for it. But
mm,
we can list all the debates we want to. We can read all the St. Athanasius we want to. But at the end of the day, we have to walk out that door and interact with the world.
yeah,
And what does that entail? Like, if I am claiming to be Orthodox, like, how do I take that outside my door and into the world? Like, how do I live that faith? How do I, you know, talk to, strangers on the street? Am I deriding the drunken bum on the corner? Oh, how dare you be a drunken bum? Or am I giving him the $5 bill anyway because I'm not supposed to be judging him in the first place? Am I being kind and gracious to people who, everyone else would say, oh, why are you being nice to that asshole? Well,
yeah,
because I'm an asshole too. I don't know, trying to be a Christian here. So
yeah,
it's it's a
yeah,
difficult way to live, but we learn to love it because once we start to understand what God's love really is
yeah,
and just how
exactly.
unfathomable it is, it's so
Mm,
easy to just go with it,
mm,
just go with it, man. But no, really, it's, I mean, we all have struggles in our life or mental issues, or, we're still human, we still experience emotions, but I think being immersed first and foremost in the liturgical life of the church,
mhm,
and then taking that out into the world, I think is just probably one of the most beautiful things in the world.
yeah,
Just being able to, even if it's just a little bit of that light we bring out with us,
mm, yeah,
like by Tuesday, maybe we're back with our heads up our asses, but at least for a little while, we can take some of that grace into the world, and little by little, that beauty will
mm,
save the world.
yeah,
So,
exactly. And again, that sort of goes back to the whole, um, we have to sort of experience the Paul in our lives. He talks about, wrestling with the flesh. Why do I do the
mm,
things that I don't want to do, and the things that I want to do I don't do? And we have that
mm-hmm,
wrestling every single day, and we
yep,
struggle, we strive, we fail, but the important thing is that we get back up again. That's
yes.
that's the attitude we need to have. Is we don't wallow in it, we don't have self-pity, we don't feel ashamed. We just pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and just keep walking forward.
And that's what most monastics will tell you. The old
Mm,
saying goes like, if you fall 100 times a day, get up 101. And it's only for the
mm,
demons to fall and not rise again. And we look at the Theotokos says the Christian par excellence. Like, she is the what we attain to. As far as
yeah,
being just humans. I think that Saint Paul is like, if the Theotokos is who we want to aspire to, St. Paul is the reality of what we're probably going to do. you
mm,
know,
yeah,
because he talks about, like, sins of the flesh, and I fall, and this, that, the other thing. And it's like, I try to be all things to all people that I might save some. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of all of us, isn't it? Like he's if the Theotokos is the Christian ideal, Paul is the Christian reality.
Mm.
And every time I read through his stuff, I just fall in love with him just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Still humbled by his example, but
Mm.
I love that, you know, he is such a great example to us of the fact that like we're not always going to get it right, but we
Yeah.
continue plugging on.
Exactly. Um, just to sort of bring it, sort of tie this up to your channel. So, how did Orthodox Review start?
Ah, um, I'll give you the long version. What the heck?
Right.
So when I first came into the faith, you know, what's the first thing they say? Well, you know, read the Gospels, okay, and read some prayers, okay. Got a prayer book, you know, uh, and so I did. And even back then, there were plenty of prayer books on the market. Oh, which one do I get? So, you know, I go on Amazon and I'm like, you know, Amazon even 13 years ago was pretty well stocked.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, well, we use the St. Tikhon's translation of the liturgy. So I guess that's the prayer book I should get. And at the time, it was like a paperback glued binding prayer book, and I got that. And then after a while, you know, I started talking to people, and they were like, "Oh, I use this one. I use that one." And so over the course of like 3 years, I had amassed quite a collection of prayer books because immediately I started getting into, you know, the differences between them, and I just enjoyed. I'm the same way with gaming dice. I just see something, oh, it's shiny and pretty, and I want it. And
Mm.
and then when I went off to the monastery, you know, riding high on my you know holiness, my perceived holiness, gave everything away. So I hung on to like one or two books and a psalter, and that was it. I gave everything else away. But then when I got back from the monastery, I was like, wow, I maybe shouldn't have given everything away. So I was like, I wanted to start collecting again, building up my collection, and so I did that. But what I didn't have was a community that I could nerd out about it with.
Mm.
And so when I started the channel, it was just kind of an outlet to be like, hey, look at these books, aren't they cool? Um, and you know, like for the first better part of the first year, it was really low key. It was just you know I wasn't on screen. It was just my hands in the book, and it was you know it had some of my personality in it, but I was trying to keep the focus on just the book itself. And then
Mm.
my ego took over, and the entertainer in me kind of came out,
Yeah.
and and it became what it is now,
Mm.
which is still sharing the faith through prayer books and kind of geeking out about, oh, this translation does this, and this one has really nice binding, and that. But it, you know, you can't just continue on with that. So I kind of pushed myself a little bit to expand out, and some things worked, some things didn't. But ultimately, like I got into it because I wanted to talk to people about prayer books, and now it's you know I'll get a prayer book from a publisher and be like, hey, check this out. And this is freaking great. I do an episode on it. I push it because I want everyone to, you know, check these things out. Hey, it's an option. And then the publishers, like, they're putting in all this work and like, so hey, I want you to buy it and support these publishers anyway. And then, you know, it goes in the library and it sits there until, you know, years down the road where someone has a question about it. It's like, okay, now I can go back to answer a question about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, it's me being greedy, but also excited. So
Yeah.
greedy
I
for
think I
books and excited about yapping about it.
yeah, I think it's healthy to nerd out about certain things, and I think what better thing to nerd out on than orthodox material. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
you could put
Absolutely.
yourself a bit worse in terms of direction, in terms of passions. I think, um,
Yes.
but yeah. So your you mentioned just to sort of touch on it briefly. You mentioned a monastery. Um,
Hmm.
that was you were trying aspiring to be a monastic, weren't you?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I yeah. So when I first converted, people started filling my head with things
Hmm.
that I kind of idealized when it came to monasticism. Because all my life I had felt drawn to some aspect of either monasticism or the priesthood.
Hmm.
Um, and so, when I converted and, my marriage was starting to go south and people were like, oh, you should just be a monk. You're so monkish. And it's like, you don't actually know me, because if you actually knew me, you wouldn't say that. But they were feeding it to me and I ate it up. And so I started visiting the monastery, and after a couple of years, um, they were like, okay, you can come and try it out. So I did. Uh, and the way the process works is like, because I had visited for weeks on end, you know, for a while. And so the way the process works is as a candidate, you come and you stay 6 months. And after the 6 months, it's like, well, do you want to be a novice? Okay, great, we'll make you a novice. And then after about 3 years, you progress up, you progress up the ladder. And so I went and I was trying. I had gotten myself off nicotine beforehand, and I had this beautiful dog that was like my security blanket, and my buddy adopted him from me, and I thought I had let go of so much,
Hmm.
but really I hadn't. I had no idea just how persistent the demons were. Um, as soon as I got there, like all the things that I thought I had let go of, I really hadn't. And it was a very, very difficult time. Not to say it wasn't beautiful, because I would not trade that experience for anything in the world. I've been saying this for how long have I been out now? 7 years. For 7 years, I've been saying, like, I can always look back at my time there and learn something from it.
Hmm.
Um, I struggled with smoking. I struggled with obedience. I was immature. Couldn't wash my mouth well enough. Um, I was stealing cookies. Uh, I was just having a rough go, and ultimately, and Father Seraphim, Schema Archimandrite Pantaleimon of blessed memory, uh, he said to me a couple times, he's like, "Boy, the world will eat you alive," and he wasn't wrong. But at the end, I went to him and, I confessed. I was like, I'm in over my head and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And because I just, I told him how, like, part of the reason why I wanted to be a monk was because I wasn't making it out in the world. And my mother was always worried about me, and I was never going to be financially stable, and I couldn't marry again or anything like that. So I was just like, at least in a monastery, someone to be there when I die. And for whatever reason, he took that to mean that I didn't want to be there anymore. Um, and me being obedient, I didn't argue. He told me, well, that works for some people, it works for others. This isn't the end. It's not a failure. It just, tried it and it didn't work out right now. And so he blessed me to return here, and continued to be my spiritual father, um, until his repose. And I did. I came back and I started from scratch. I had a duffel bag and some books. That's and that was all I came back with. And I've been barely keeping my head above water ever since. But he was right. The world did eat me alive, and it continues to.
Mhm.
um, but I do it anyway. Uh, and it's I think it would be either harder or I'd be more naive and thus not know had I not had that experience.
Mm.
Um, and to this day, I will tell anyone and everyone with any time of serious faithfulness to treat yourself to a long weekend at a monastery once a year or so.
Mm.
That's what they're there for, uh, to hit that reset button, to disconnect and just, you know,
Mm.
sit and hear that, you know, that silent breeze that is God's voice, when you go to these spiritual sanctuaries, that I've heard it said by others, and I've seen it myself, like the rivers of grace that flow out of these monasteries, that flow from the altars in the churches. It's palpable sometimes,
Mm.
and I think just going there and having some stillness and experiencing the fullness of the liturgical cycle and doing a little work and yucking it up with the monks because they're not automaton robots. They're they're
Mm.
they're men and women just like us, um, and experiencing a little bit of that joy and like I was saying earlier, taking that back out into the world with us and kind of having that recharge. I know here in America it's not so easy, and I know there's not a whole lot in the UK either. But if you can get to a monastery,
Mm.
do yourself a favor, treat yourself. 48, 72 hours, whatever, and you glean a little bit of that heavenly life and take that with
Mm.
you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was
No,
beautiful.
thank God,
Um,
thank God.
I think this sort of echoes to sort of the problems that we're experiencing within the church
Hmm.
at the moment, with sort of like the rise of sort of like the ortho bros and the online only
Mm.
Orthodox movement, and you're seeing, I see it on TikTok and things like that.
Mm.
Of you're looking at someone who might be what 15, 16, something like that, and they've been received into the church, praise God, but um they're so young, talking about, oh, I've I've been feeling the call to enter into the monastic lifestyle or to become a priest.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing it all the time. I'm like, are you sure this is from God, or are you just reading your uh, the online only Orthodox sort of
Mm.
theology and attitude into your life? Because I think that's where it can get a bit dangerous, because especially if you're like you've been
Yeah,
there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and had that experience, and you now that you, I mean, well, like you
yeah,
said, um you were in over your head, you didn't know what to do.
yeah. Well, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about the process is like these, and thank God these young people are even considering
Mm.
monasticism. Like in a world where everything is sex, drugs, and violence,
Mm.
um, for anyone to even consider monastic vocation or the priesthood is, it's a miracle and it's a blessing. Um, but the process is there for a reason,
Mm.
because, like, I mean, I wanted to be a priest ever since I was in grade school. I'm not a
Mm.
priest
Yeah.
because there are checks in place that keep me from making a mistake and damning my soul and maybe the souls of others. So these young men, they might graduate school, and young women too that want to be nuns, um, and they'll go visit a monastery, and they might have an experience like me, where they figure that's okay. It's not what I thought it was. I don't think I can do this. Like, maybe it's not for me, or
Mm.
maybe it is. In order to be a priest, it's not like you just decide to be a priest. You go to school and they make you a priest. There's,
Yeah.
like there's hierarchy involved. There's schools involved. there's all these things that, are supposed to, separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Yeah.
And of course, men are men, and sometimes you get a bad apple. But I think, and also canonically speaking, and I know we kind of dismiss this a lot these days because there's such a shortage of clergy. I mean, technically, you're not even supposed to be ordained until you're 30 to the priesthood. And we have this problem in America where we have these extremely young priests being ordained, and it shows that like they don't have the life experience or maturity that a 30-year-old man is supposed to have when being ordained to the priesthood. So I mean, it's a precarious balance that we have there. But ultimately, when you have teenagers saying, "I want to do this holy thing," it's like, pat on the back, egg them on. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So I would encourage these young people, but the skeptic in me is also partly saying, well, okay, how involved is this kid's priest in their spiritual formation? Are they just receiving them because they're happy to see teenagers at church, or are they properly catechizing them and making sure that they're not doing this because it's just the based thing to do? Like the church is not the church is not based in red pill. The church is the church.
Yeah,
it's based.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it.
I think that's where I'm sort of coming from. Is that side of like, it's more of like I'm spiritually worried for someone who so young is expressing that, because I just don't want it to go wrong for them and then to end up damaged and to end up leaving the faith. Like, these things have to be discerned properly. They have to be discussed properly. It's a very serious thing to do, to consider.
Yeah.
It's a life of sacrifice. It's a life of giving everything up. And I think...
And
go on.
And that's why those checks are in place, because it's going to keep them from making that decision until God decides it's time.
Exactly.
And we also have to look back at the saints. At how many of them from an early age knew that they were going to be clergy or they were going to be monastics. Up until the last 150 years, it was not uncommon for a teenager to go to Mount Athos, and that was it. Done. Like 15, 16 years old. A lot has changed in the modern age when it comes to our culture of faith in the Orthodox Church. It used to be that, oh, well, Uncle Jerry's a monk at, this monastery over here. You're finished with your primary education. You're a saintly little guy. You're 15. You're adult enough. Oh, Father Jerry over here, your uncle, is going to raise you at the monastery now. And like, that was not uncommon. Of course, I mean, there were some other traditions that were kind of meh, like the whole idea of like a priestly caste, like happened in Russia, where it's like, well, my dad was a priest, and now I, like, kind of thing. So it's a little give and take, but I think to discourage young people from at least exploring their options when it comes to service in the church, it does a great disservice to us all. Like, we wouldn't have such a shortage of clergy in our church if people weren't dissuading their children from these vocations.
Yeah.
So, like, if some 16-year-old TikToker, wants to talk a big game, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, go let him try, and God will either bless it or He won't. We kind of have to. It sounds kind of cringe, but we got to trust the process.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just wake up one day and decide you're going to do something, and then all of a sudden you're doing it. It's it's like, no, the priest has to sign off on it, then the bishop has to sign off on it, then you got to wait till you're a certain age, then you have to go to school, and then you got to do this, that, and the other thing. And by the time you're done with all that process,
Yeah.
you could get a PhD in theology from a seminary
Mm-hmm.
and still not be made a priest. Like,
Yeah.
so it's these, the steps in formation are there to take care of us. So if these kids want to talk a big game, all right, go for it. See what happens. Glory to God for whatever happens.
Yeah.
So I think what's more dangerous is young people and even adults who's like hey Jadar, oh excuse me, who go online and they're trying to win people to the faith through arguments and acting cringe, and it's like, okay, but are you going to the divine liturgy on Sunday? Are you saying your prayers? Are you following the commandments, like even the little things, just by doing good works,
Mm.
or just generally not being a douche? Uh, those are the questions I have for a lot of these people. They get brought into Orthodoxy online because it's a traditional way of life, or it's the antithesis of whatever's popular at the moment.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, so you started going to church and somehow you became Orthodox, but you're still online behaving like the person you were before you converted. So you really didn't convert. You just, you faked it, and now you're still this dark and negative thing. And I think those people are far more dangerous.
Yeah.
Uh, and we were talking earlier about Father Mikhail's last couple episodes. He did a video on that. And I think he said it far better than I could, going over the dangers of that kind of cult of personality.
Mm.
So I would much rather see a kid on social media saying, I'm going to be a monk, or I'm going to be a priest because I love God and I want to do something. I'd much rather see that than, the other guys that are like, oh, I'm such a base Chad, and women should shut up and be in the kitchen, and that's that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to argue with a bunch of idiots that is pointless arguments anyway, because no one, there is nothing spiritually profitable about any of that garbage. Uh, it's 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 Jerry Springer for Ortho Bros. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Or who's a trash
That's
talk
a
show?
very good way of putting it. Jerry Springer for author.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a British talk show host that's like kind of a muckraker, but all I can think of is like, I can't think of anyone. Like, I feel like Graham Norton, but he's funny and weird.
I think the
Or
person you're probably looking for is Jeremy Kyle.
there you go. Yeah, because I only watch the funny, wholesome stuff like Al Murray. But yeah, no, it's just trash TV for pseudo Orthodox. It
Mm.
breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying you can't glean anything good at all from it, because even a broken clock is correct twice a day. Like, there might be little nuggets of truth in there that it's like, oh, that got me thinking about this, that, or the other thing, and you go and pray on it. But 99% of the time, it's just toxic.
Yeah.
It's like, go watch a history documentary instead. Read some Psalms. You know, anything's better than that.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of takes us into like your obviously what you do at the moment on YouTube is reviewing Orthodox content, not content,
Mm-hmm.
but books predominantly, things like that. And what in your opinion, like what makes a good book, like a good Orthodox book? Not necessarily a Psalter or a prayer book, just a general Orthodox book. What boxes does it need to tick?
That's a great question, because I mean, just in general, I want something that's readable. I want something that doesn't make me feel like I'm being talked down to. I want something that doesn't make me feel like I should have a 7-year degree to understand. And I want something that is going to profit me spiritually.
Hmm.
Um, And just because I've got 5 fingers on this hand, let's find another thing I'm looking for in a book. Uh, Good typeface means a
Yes.
lot. Like the actual physical readability of a book, I don't think anyone's really taking that as seriously as they should, because I've got plenty of books, recent books, that even with my glasses, I'm like struggling because it's just like really crap typeface, or it's a facsimile from 50 years ago that no one's scanned yet and just like redone it. Like I can literally take a picture of a page out of an old book with my phone, and my phone will retype that page. Why we don't have new prints of old books that have been facsimile to death is beyond me.
Mm.
Especially like service books, like the Lenten Triodian. We're all using the same Callisto Square translation that was first typed up in the 70s or the 60s, and it looks like mud on paper. And this is a
Yeah.
service book, so yeah. If I'm gonna hang my hat on one thing, it's gonna be that. Please, for the
Mm.
love of God, and I mean this in all seriousness, update the texts. You don't have to retranslate it. You don't have to reformat it. Just retype it, please.
Well, I mean, but
So
by doing that, you're alienating some potential readers who might have vision difficulties, or some form of disability or something like that. And the whole point is that should be,
well,
these
exactly,
gems should be accessible to everyone.
exactly. And I love using myself as an example because I'm a egomaniac. But for the longest time, I didn't have glasses. I didn't have glasses up until a couple months ago, and I couldn't read squat to begin with. But now that I've got the glasses, it's like one of my favorite service books of all time is the Half Good Service Book, because it's the cornerstone of not American, but English language translations of Orthodox services. And I think it's a beautiful translation, but again, it's been a facsimile of the original printing from 1920 something, 30 something since then. So it's 100-year-old facsimile, and over time the quality deteriorates, things get blurry, splotchy, and it's just like, I would love to read this, but it's difficult. Like all you've got to do is retypeset it, you know, and it's not, with the technology we have these days, it's not difficult.
Mm.
Um, but I'm also lazy. Otherwise, I'd do it myself. But yeah, I think it's preserving texts is important.
Mm.
Um, and even if it's not a widely used or still used one, it's we preserve history in the church when it matters. You know, we remember the saints, we remember our history, we remember our sins so that we don't repeat them. We remember everything in the church, so why not remember these texts? Why not remember these books? Theologic, whether it's a theological treaty or a prayer book or a service book or anything like that. It's like, yeah, cool. Put them in a museum, put them in a library, whatever. But make sure that there is something accessible for people that, like. I'm about to do an episode on the 1611 translation of the King James Bible, because
Oh yeah.
so many facsimile editions out there, which are like very difficult to read. But
Yeah.
I think that's a great example. It's like, okay, it's a 400-year-old book, and the only reason it's still legible is because the original was like this tall,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just typesetting.
Yeah.
Typesetting is important.
It's a
Anything
detailed design
smaller than
typesetting.
12 point,
Mm.
yeah, anything smaller than 12 point to me is difficult. But that's
Mm.
me. I'm particular. So
Yeah. I think the one of the things that I really like seeing is when people sort of have the ability to take a work that is, might have been out of print for a long time,
mm-hmm.
um and to be able to
Yes,
breathe new life into that and to make it accessible for modern audiences, I think is something that should
yes,
be encouraging with the full respect to copyright. I want to make that disclaimer. I'm not encouraging anyone to do
Yes.
piracy or to
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
try and rip people off out of money. But if something is out of copyright and you have the ability to typeset a book and to put it out on print on demand for everyone to get, do it. It helps everyone.
Yeah. Actually, I started a project on that with a few people that were just fans of the show, with the Psalter of the Theotokos by Saint Dimitri of Rostov, and because there's one available. It's print on demand. It's large. It's like this big, but it's like super thin. It's just a correlating 150 psalms about the Theotokos that he put together, and there's only one version available in English. It's print on demand. It's from Amazon. It's just like, we can do better than this. And after talking to several people, because I did a review of it, a lot of my Slavic viewers reached out and they were like, "Oh, everyone's got this book over here. This is like, I'm like, why don't we have this here yet? Why don't we have like something, maybe not the most beautiful and embellished edition, just like, something normal sized?" And so I enlisted the help of some people and tried desperately to organize, like, I am not a publisher and I'm not good at it either. I was very humbled by this experience and not being able to coordinate any of this stuff. But like so I don't know where to, because I can't do typesetting. It's not something I'm good at. So, but, just looking at that, like, because I go on websites for like a Synodalist convent in Minsk, and they have so many Orthodox books that I have no idea what they are, but I know we don't have them in English. I'm like, what? Like, we are in the information age where people are hacking into major corporations and trolling people, and we can't get basic translations of foundational texts, whether it's theology or prayers, that are normal everywhere but the English-speaking world. I think is a travesty. So I'd like to see more of that.
I think that's come from a place of the acceleration of orthodoxy and the church is playing catch up. Like God is moving and inviting people into the church, and the church is just like, yeah, cool, awesome. Any more? Oh yeah, okay. There's a couple more thousand people over there. All right, that's fine, cool. Come on in. Welcome to everyone. And it's sort of just like, okay, well, we should start, making things available. But translations take time and things like that as well.
They do, but I would, and I'm a little biased on this one because he's my patron saint. But St. Raphael of Brooklyn and St. Tikhon of Moscow, the great apostles to North America, were adamant about the use of English in the liturgies here. And once St. Raphael reposed and St. Tikhon was under house arrest by the Bolsheviks and everything, and he was like, okay, you guys are kind of on your own until we get this sorted out. At that point, I don't know about Europe or England or anything like that, but at that point in America, it became the Wild West all over again. Every country started sending their priests over, and the churches turned into these cultural museums, culture clubs, and like nothing was going on here because everyone was just, we want to keep it Greek, we want to keep it Russian, we want to keep it whatever. And so all the English translations just kind of stopped until really like the 60s and 70s is when you start seeing English translations again. So we've had since the 60s, so we've had about 70 years to start catching up. And we're catching up greatly. I think St. Vladimir's seminary press, for, whether you like them or not, they're translating a lot of stuff. And that's great. But I think more people need to step up to the plate. I think that now that we're finally coming out of this insular community sort of mentality, and we have all these converts from every walk of life, like, I think we're more than prepared to get the work done. Um, so I think the only thing holding it back now is either individuals need to be inspired to do it, or publishers need to start reaching out to get it done. Because the need is there, the desire is there, and God willing, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got opinions and chips on my shoulder from here to Kalamazoo. So.
That was fine.
But,
it'd be a very boring life if we didn't have those chips on our shoulders.
True.
Speaking of chips on our shoulders, what this is a polarizing question in the Orthodox sphere. What are your opinions on?
I love polarizing questions. I love this. Okay. Go for it.
What is your opinion on the Orthodox Study Bible?
My opinion on the Orthodox Study Bible is that it is a good study Bible. People like to complain about the Septuagint in the study Bible. These people have, in my experience, never read any other translation of the Septuagint, nor can they read Greek. So, it is my humble opinion that most people should just shut their yap and be grateful that they have one at all. And that is my highly opinionated and divisive take on the OSB. Could it be improved? Absolutely. Everything can be improved. Like, literally everything. But the fact that we have one at all in the English language blows my mind. Because, plenty of Protestant study Bibles out there, because they've only got about 300 or 400 years of history worth of theology to cram in there and dupe people with. We're dealing with 2,000 years in the fullness of the faith, and saints and ecumenical teachers for 2,000 years. You want to codify that into a single volume Bible? Yeah, they did a pretty decent job of giving us you're new to the faith here. Here's the most basic version we can possibly give you. So I like the study Bible. If you want to get super technical about the Septuagint, go out and buy the other English versions that are out there, the Lexham and the Brenton. Go ahead, have fun with that. There's just enjoy being that jerk that has to sit there and be an armchair theologian just so you can give yourself a pat on the back and say, you got it right. Meanwhile, you're not actually living the faith. You're just sitting in your chair on your little high horse. Like, good for you. I'm busy trying to not go to hell. That's where I'm at. Like, if I could not go to hell, that would be fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah, I'd love that.
If I say something correct somewhere along the way, bonus,
I think for me, I think part of this is sort of like, this is where my sort of technical side comes out, right? So it's not more of like an issue necessarily with like translation or like the notes. I think it's to do with the editions and the publisher, because I think
I'm with you on the whole publisher thing, because when it was published originally by Thomas Nelson, the CEO at the time was an Orthodox deacon who started his own publishing house after he left. And actually, I think he's got a podcast on ancient faith. But yeah, he's, so at the time, Thomas Nelson, and so when they started printing the Ancient Faith edition, those are still the original Thomas Nelson text blocks, just with a new binding and with the pre and post communion prayers literally glued into the front of the book.
Yeah.
So there has not been any updates or anything to the book. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got one. Now, see, I've got the old Thomas Nelson. Hold on a second.
See, this is when we nerd out about
Yeah,
translations and editions and bindings and things like that. This is great.
yeah. So this was the first hardcover of the
Yeah.
full, Old and New Testament. And if you go to the title page with the the credits on it and everything, um, Orthodox Study Bible, prepared under the auspices of the academic community at St. Athanasius Academy, Nashville, Dallas, Mexico City, Rio de Janeiro, there at the bottom. And then on the very next page, copyright 2008, for the Old Testament and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then New Testament, King James, 1982. And then it should say, printed in the United States of America, down there near the bottom. But these are all from the original textual run.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so your Ancient Faith edition is going to have the same exact thing in it. It's just going to have those glossy pages with the pre and post meaning and prayers there in the front. Now,
it also says printed in China.
Oh, yours is?
Yep, this one here, the Ancient Faith one. If you have a look, I'll put my stuff up if it can focus. Hang on. It might be a case of I'll get myself bigger. This is ultimate nerd out, everyone. Ultimate nerd out. Right, there we go.
This is what happens.
There you go. Can you see that there at the bottom?
Yeah. Yours is printed in China. Mine is printed in the United States.
Hang on. Let me put you up full screen.
Yeah. There it is. Printed in the United States of America. So, well, the point of it all being is that there have not been any changes to the text. They're just reusing the same text block over and over again instead of updating copyright information. They certainly haven't changed any of the contents at all. And I think that's probably because technically the New King James version of the Bible is still copyrighted by Thomas Nelson.
Yeah.
This St. Athanasius Old Testament is licensed. So in order for them to publish an updated version, they've got to get a whole bunch of people together and spend years updating the text. And then after all that, and who's going to put up the money for that? Then they have to go to Thomas Nelson and be like, we need to, renew our license on this so we can print it elsewhere, or you can print it. And Thomas Nelson, being a largely Protestant publishing house, they're not going to go for that. The only reason they got away with it in the first place is because an Orthodox deacon was in charge of the company. So,
I think
now,
and for me personally, right? If I'm talking about obviously it is, and I do want to stress this because I have an entire video about my issue with the Orthodox Study Bible. It's not the text itself, right? It's not anything to do with that, or necessarily the notes or things like that. Although they could do with a little bit of an updating, in certain places and things like that. It's about the practical things. Like, for instance, I've never seen this before, but in certain, I mean, they're beautiful, but I think they're misplaced. Is having the icons slap bang in the middle of the text.
Yes,
I think
that is, unless there are icons pertaining to what's on that page, I think it's just like, why is this here?
Yeah.
I
think it would be much better if they were either put to the front or if they were put to the back, and just keep the text as the text, because when you're introducing slightly thicker, glossier paper in amongst thinner Bible paper, you put strain upon the binding, and eventually, though, it will cause issues. And there
I
are
would offer even a I would offer a third option.
Mm,
I would make them removable.
yes.
I can't tell
Yeah.
you how many people have told me that they have removed the icons from their study Bible because they couldn't afford icons otherwise, and
Yep.
they've framed them or used them. So yeah, having them removable.
Yep. Having them in the back with perforated edges on the
Mm-hmm.
on the back would be
Yeah,
perfect, because then that would kill two birds with one stone essentially. But
yeah. Well, and plus you have the Ancient Faith edition there where they have the prayers in the front
yeah,
that are just kind of slapped in there
yeah,
on that glossy
exactly.
paper as well. It could be just something like that,
Yeah,
you know?
and also as well, like I was watching Tim Nichols, who does Nicholsworth Bible reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked it. He's a nice guy, and he's actually quite open to reviewing Catholic and Orthodox, books and things. He's reviewed the
Nice.
AOB, he's reviewed the Orthodox Study Bible, and he pointed out the fact that on the same run of Orthodox Study Bibles, there was like half that were glue bound and half that were Smith sewn on the same printing.
Really?
Yeah,
That's that bothers me a lot because one
mm.
thing Thomas Nelson is known for is for their Smithsonian binding,
Yeah,
or at least the ones that are printed in America. I don't know about the ones printed in China or elsewhere, but like mine is Smithsonian. It lays flat beautifully as a Bible should. Um, I came across a disappointing example of that myself recently when I was talking about the 1611. Excuse me.
mm.
I got this. So Thomas Nelson recently published,
The facsimile. Yeah.
yeah, of the 1611, and the one thing I noticed is the binding looks terrible.
Mm.
It's just awful. Um, it doesn't like. I'm pretty sure that it's just a glued binding. I don't know if the light is really going to show much, or I mean, if it is sewn, I haven't been able to find the stitching. I'm sure it's probably sewn and glued,
Mm.
but it's not Smythe sewn. It's just,
Yeah.
and that would explain why it was only $30 on Amazon. But so
Yeah,
I'm
but
very disappointed in them for that.
the thing is, like, even like I mean, you can get a value, like a Holman value thin line Christian Standard Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which it doesn't even have gilding on the side, and that's
Yeah,
Smith sewn. Like, that's
yeah,
just the thing now
exactly,
with the Bible, is it is Smith sewn because it's supposed to last a lifetime.
exactly. And like this one was printed in India, which I don't know if that means anything, but I'm just not a huge fan of anything that comes out of that country, honestly.
Well,
God help me.
you
But
say that actually the printing from India has
mhm.
gotten substantially better in recent years. They've actually upped their
Oh,
game.
well, that's good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just, the Bible is not only the most important book known to man,
Hmm.
but bearing that in mind, it should have the best binding known to man.
Yeah.
Like I'm not when I die, all this stuff is going. I don't know who's going to get all my books. Hopefully someone that'll use them. But the idea is like, hopefully they'll still be serviceable when that time comes. And like you can get a Gideon's Bible from your hotel room or your hospital room because that's what they're there for.
Hmm.
Like, and I've got Gideon Bibles in my collection that are decades old. I've got my grandfather's King James Bible from like 1940 something,
Hmm.
and the binding in that will not quit.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if this one's going to be just as good in 100 years. I hope so,
Hmm.
but yeah. I mean, the most
Yeah.
important text known to mankind should be treated as such in the print shop.
Well, I think as well, like two organisations that do this very, very well are Cambridge and Schuyler.
Hmm. I would
That
die for one of those Cambridge Bibles.
one of these, you mean?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh my
Is the
goodness.
with the goat skin and with the
Is that the reader's edition?
this is the topaz. This is the one with
Uh,
the two columns and the references on it.
yeah. Very nice. Yeah, no, I've got a few. I've had a few books from Cambridge University Press, and they are
Mm.
second to none.
Well, the
Um,
oldest Bible printers in the world,
yeah, I need
still
to
to this
one
day.
of these days. Maybe if I ever get my disability, I'll throw a few bucks at getting a proper Bible that'll really outlive me. Uh,
Yeah,
from Cambridge.
and
I
it's
got a buddy, Michael, that he collects Bibles. That's his thing. And yeah, he sent me some pictures of his Cambridge. He got the Reader's Edition in the goat skin, and my goodness, I almost fell out of my chair at the
yeah,
quality. It was so beautiful.
yeah, and then also as well you have Skylar as well, who do the super flexible goat skin sort of
Yes.
things, and then but I mean, this is the Bible. I wish, and actually, slight exclusive on this one. I
Okay.
messaged Evangelical Bible about this. It looks like potentially next year they are going to be reprinting the RSV with Apocrypha
Nice. The
because
RSV. Yeah.
they've had a
Well, because
resurgence in popularity.
the Oxford Study Bible is really the only game in town for RSV with Apocrypha.
Yeah.
And that's all nice and fine, but the Oxford is a clunker. Uh, and like, I'm not the hugest fan of the RSV, like just because I grew up on the King James and on like the NAB and like all these Catholic editions. So I'm used to Old English. That's just kind of where my comfort zone is. But I know
Mm.
the greater part of the English speaking Orthodox community, if they're not using King James, they're using the RSV. So having a quality RSV with Apocrypha, on the market
Mm.
without it having to be a hardback clunker that you can barely read, that's a blessing. Major, major blessing. So that would be fantastic.
So is your main translation you go to King James, or is it sort of more New King James? Like
Um,
where do you land?
I shuffle it honestly. I will go from King James to New King James to not OSB, EOB,
Mm-hmm.
that Eastern Orthodox Greek Bible translation.
Yeah.
And most of that is because the liturgical texts that I use draw from one of those three translations. For instance, all the stuff from St. Ignatius Orthodox Press has the EOB translation used for New Testament quotes, and the Breton Septuagint for Old Testament, and then the Ephraim Lash Psalms. For the OCA, Orthodox Church in America, it's all RSV, augmented RSV, but RSV. And actually, my priest, and I can send you links for this, my priest actually published an RSV Psalter corrected for OCA usage. And it's good. It's good. It is what it's supposed to be. And then King James, that's comfort food for me. Like, I just love the beauty of the language. I can kind of slip into a different time when maybe my life would have been different. So I love the beauty of the King James language. I mean, I've also had a Dewey Rain, a couple actually,
Yeah.
that again, Old English, really love it. But yeah, King James is always going to be like, if I have to pick one, it's going to be that one, just because it's beautiful.
Yeah, and you see that it's things like, this is sort of going back to my mini rant about Thomas Nelson again. The fact that it seems to me that now Thomas Nelson have got a bee in their bonnet about giving people who are apostolic, whether you are Catholic or Orthodox, or even some especially in Anglican traditions.
Yeah, the CV.
We'll read the Apocrypha. they have this thing of just like they don't want to give a good edition of the Bible with these extra books. Like for instance, the Thomas Nelson King James with Apocrypha with 70 column references that they put out a few years ago now. It has spelling mistakes in the apocryphal section, and they didn't put any cross references in the apocryphal section whatsoever. Whereas all of the Old and New Testament have full cross references, and it's just the bare text essentially for the for the apocryphal section. And I'm just sort of like, that's just such a waste.
It is, because if you go to the 1611 in the apocrypha, we get to it. Like in the apocrypha, in the 1611, you have cross references. Like they're in there, so like they're in the original. So why they're not? I don't know. It blows the mind. I know at least Holman, like you said earlier, publishes quality. I would say the old Thompson Chain Reference Bible, which I need to get my copy back, is a fantastic one because it's center column reference, full apocrypha, the whole nine. Yeah, it's just, and it's not like there's anything in the so-called apocryphal writings that would be scandalous to anyone in the Protestant world. It's just that Martin Luther decided he didn't like them, so he took them out. That was it. So I'm right there with you on that one.
So Thomas Nelson.
All right.
And you have the cross references in the Old Testament as you do, right? Cross references everywhere. And you go into the New Testament. And of course you have cross references everywhere. And also because it's Thomas Nelson, they do the red letter and it looks very nice and fancy. But if you flip over into the apocryphal section, dun, it's just plain.
Nothing.
There's nothing. There's not even notes at the bottom. Like it's
just like we numbered these pages and slapped them in there, and that was it.
Yeah, it was like, it's more like an afterthought, that sort of thing. It's just, that's what annoys me. But anyway, so this might be more up your street, which you may have seen before. But I would probably recommend this to you if you really do like the King James. Is the Cambridge Cameo with the Apocrypha.
Nice. It's like I said, the Cambridge is. What's the types? What's the type point on that? 9.5 or 10 or?
I think it is a. Hang on, I will look it up for you. 8 point, but it's in a bold.
Okay, that's not terrible.
It's in a bolded.
Oh, see, that helps.
It's in an old. It's basically it's the way they did it back in the day. Is it's all hand pressed. And so basically they've
nice.
They've taken the I'll put myself full screen.
Oh yeah.
Have a look. There you go.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like you were saying earlier, the apocryphal section has full cross references as well.
Yes. And that's the Cameo edition?
Cameo, Cambridge Cameo, and this is it comes in calf skin. You can have calf split or calf skin. This is the calf skin, so it's nice and sort of. But the only thing is, it's not edge lined; it's paste down, which I have emailed them about and said you need to up your game, and they've said yes, we do.
You know what? That's okay, because paste down is. I can hand sew that myself if I really wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair though, Cambridge's paste downs are probably the best on the market, I'd say, in terms of
nice
resilience. The glue that they use is something special. It just holds. I don't know, but
nice. Yeah, I just wrote that down because as soon as we're done with this call, I'm going to go on Amazon and put one on my wish list.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong. I mean, especially if you love the King James, it's a really good Bible. And there's there's a YouTuber who is well known amongst sort of like some of the circles I sort of run in is SoCal Preston.
Okay.
He's a Protestant evangelical
Hmm.
who's thoroughly
Right.
convinced of the Apocrypha being scripture.
Thank God.
Yeah, and
Baby
he,
steps. Woohoo.
yeah, he's KJV only, but that's fine. I've talked to him about it, and it's not for the reasons you think. Like usually, it's sort of like all the numerology and Bible codes and things like that. But it's not
Yeah.
nothing to do with that. It's to do with like publishing and things like that.
Yeah.
As far as I can recall, anyway. But I mean, he uses this. He uses this Bible, and this is what he swears by. And
Very nice.
it is well made. And I did email to Cambridge saying perhaps you should think about doing some more for the apostolics out there who hold these books as scripture, and said, "Yep, no, that's something we want to do." So
Excellent.
praise God.
Thank God. Thank God for Cambridge University.
Yeah,
Who knew?
exactly. But that's something I wanted to pick your brain at. Whilst we're
Sure.
just on the topic of Bibles,
Okay.
the upcoming New Rome Press Bible.
Yes.
Excited or not excited?
A little bit of both.
Mm.
Because so what Father Michael's doing, he's not reinventing the wheel or anything like that. What he's doing is he's putting together something that's meant to be beautiful. Because he's using a pre-existing translation of the Septuagint Old Testament, and he's using the EOB New Testament. And what he's doing is he's embellishing it. He's trying to make something beautiful, heirloom quality that Orthodox Christians can kind of be proud of and scratches an itch that people have been talking about for a while, which is a proper Orthodox Bible. So by combining, I think he's using the Lexham Septuagint, I think, and then the EOB New Testament, which is an Orthodox translation, he feels that he'll be appeasing a larger swath of Orthodox people with that. Now, anyone with half a brain can slap those two texts together and just print on demand and publish, and be on their merry way. But the amount of attention to detail that he puts into his publications always pays off. When he did the EOB New Testament, the zipper one, the way the reference notes are formatted in that edition, and I went over this in one of my reviews because we became fast friends pretty early on. It's the way that they run from one to another, from page to page. Apparently, was like one of the most tedious things he had ever done, for ease of study. And so, if you go on their Instagram, like he occasionally will post updates where it'll show you like mock-ups of like the pages of some of the pages that are in there, and really this is going to harken back to those old family heirloom Bibles that you used to see with just like all this amazing artwork and formatting and everything. So this is this is one man doing the job that a team would usually do. So I'm excited for it because if there's one thing I love, it's a beautiful Bible. I love beautiful books in general. I think books should, by and large, be beautiful. It's more than just words on a page. I think I'm not entirely certain that it's going to sell the way he wants it to. I'm sure he's going to sell plenty of them. So I'll be interested to see how it's received. But I have no doubt in my mind that it will be beautiful, and worth the money, and worth the money.
The only thing for me right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, and I understand obviously the mindset behind it, and
Mm-hmm.
fair enough, but I just don't think we're there yet in terms of like, like you have, um I explain the thing that I'm on about in a second. It's very specific, but you'll
Okay.
understand what I mean when I give a little bit of context. Is that when you go to your typical Bible publisher like uh, Crossway or
Mm-hmm.
Holman, um, Thomas Nelson, etc., you have all these different translations, and then you also have all of these different editions, and you have all of these
Mm-hmm.
different options for people, all the different cover options. You've got, so you've got literally cheap paperbacks. You've got, a little bit more premium sort of leather soft, and then you're going into sort of like the more sort of leather, premium leather, and then even more premium leather, and then you've got even more premium
Mm-hmm.
leather that's edge lined, and then gilt edges and
Yes.
edge line gilting and things like that. Right? Have all these options,
Mm-hmm.
and these companies have been going for a long time, and they
Yes.
have a large fan base already. Like they have a large audience ready
Yeah.
and willing to pay for these editions.
Mm-hmm.
The
We don't.
only thing, yeah, but like this is the thing. Like the one thing I wish it had, and I
Mm-hmm.
think this might put off a lot of people, and I just don't think we're there yet in terms of making this. I can understand the reasoning why, but I don't think we're there in terms of like, the availability of Orthodox Bibles in English. This will be the second one that we have,
Mm-hmm.
is verse numbers.
Yeah.
I understand
Verse.
they want to do. I understand they want to do a reader's version, like going back to the way things were back in the day with the original manuscripts. I completely understand. I
Mm-hmm.
really do get the vision, and I see that. I just don't think we're there currently, and I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to land as well as people, as well as I think that New Rome hope that it will. For me personally,
Yeah.
anyway. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm proven wrong.
I'm with you on that one. I have a feeling, and it's only a feeling. I haven't confirmed this, that there will be reference numbers.
Mm,
Uh, uh, so, like, okay, if you look at the HTM Psalter, all right, it doesn't have all the verse numbers in it because it's meant for chanting, it's meant for reading. But there are a few reference numbers throughout the Psalms. Like every fifth line, it'll say it's 1, 5, 10, blah blah blah. I have a feeling that he'll probably wind up doing something like that with this,
mm-hmm,
just so like you can at least find in a book. It's like, okay, I'm in Maccabees, Second Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 27. Okay, so well, okay, here's the marking for 25, so 27's over here. You know,
mm-hmm.
um, which I think would be a good kind of meet in the middle sort of place,
Yeah, I would agree.
because because usually those markings are in the margins and not in the text, so it doesn't intrude on the readability of the text, but doesn't it also doesn't like completely mess up the margins or anything. So it could be done subtly and tastefully. That would be a best case scenario in
Mm,
for me, because I do, for just sitting down and reading the Bible, I prefer a reader's version. But
mm,
when I'm trying to go reference something, yeah, I definitely want those verse numbers there.
yeah.
If I'm looking for something in particular.
Mm,
Um, so I understand the need
mm,
for both. I know what I prefer, so
yeah.
I
And
can
again, like
go one way or the other on it. But
I
if
don't, I
there's
don't.
if there's no verse markings at all, I mean, forget it.
Yeah, I think for me, I just don't like. I don't want to be sort of really nitpicky. I'm very grateful that we're getting one. Like, you know,
Yes.
I want to encourage New Rome on their quest to
Hmm.
do a new Bible. That's great. We need one. Fantastic.
Yes.
Perhaps from this point, just do a traditional, just leather soft thin line version that has just a simple, like your average
Mm,
everyday thin line Bible, but just for an
Yeah.
Orthodox audience. Just don't have to put references in there, like cross references, or you could put textual footnotes in there if you wanted to. But even if you just
Hmm.
had just chapters and verses, that'd be fine. Just something that
Yeah.
people can just use.
I am curious as to what kind of paper he's going to be using. If it's going to be like Bible paper, or if he's going to do a chonker and like some, high acid, you know, heavy paper or not. I don't know that yet. I would imagine it'll probably be hardcover.
They're
Um,
doing a soft cover.
oh, they are.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They put up on Instagram the options for colorways that they were looking at.
Oh, okay.
They've done a whole different
Okay.
the whole design involving the
Oh, all right.
Theotokos and things like that.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm not really on social media all that much anymore, so
That's fine.
I'm woefully out of the loop.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, I mean that's good. If he's doing soft cover, then if he doesn't go full leather, it'll probably be that rubbery sort of
Yeah, the faux leather
stuff
soft sort
that
of
they've been
thing.
using. Yeah, which it's
It's
okay. It
fine,
just
but
it's not as
unless you have a
flexible
good
as
quality one,
leather
it
would
breaks
be.
down over time.
Yes, exactly. Because I mean, it is ultimately rubber,
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's leather. I mean, if he's going to put all these years of effort into it, I would imagine it's going to be leather.
Yeah. I would probably imagine the paperweight would probably be around about the 36 GSM, maybe 34.
Yeah. Because for the EOB, he sourced that paper. That paper was milled specifically for that Bible. He will probably
Right.
do something similar for this.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll.
But the thing is, how much is it going to cost?
Oh, see, that's. I mean, we're talking triple digits. There's no way this thing is going to cost. It's not going to be cheap.
Mm.
And now that we're, especially since we're having like this tariff war with China now
Mm.
over here, he prints everything in China. Um, I don't know how he's going to pull that off. He's either going to have to find a domestic printer, or find some random country that we haven't, put tariffs in place against,
Mm. Well,
to print
he
it.
could get in contact with Skylar,
Yeah,
um, Evangelical Bible, because they use, well, no, because they're, no, actually, no, scratch that. Just go straight to the source. Go to Royal Youngblood. They're the
yeah,
experts.
yeah, and
They,
and there's plenty of print shops
yeah.
domestically even
Mm.
that you can print a book, a really high quality one, and it
Mm.
not cost an arm and a leg. You know,
Yeah.
um, I understand. Keeping costs down. I get that, but I said this recently to someone. I don't remember who, but if you make something beautiful
Mm.
that's going to last a lifetime, people will pay for it. You know,
Mm.
um, I like being poor myself. I understand wanting to offer something that is, affordable. On the other hand, it's like, you also get what you pay for. And
Yeah.
if you want to do something right and do it beautiful and have all the whistles and bells in there, then then do it, and don't be afraid to be like, okay, well, this Bible is going to be $100 because you look at that company Humble Lamb. They
Mm.
do those limited run Bibles. They're like 100 and some odd dollars, but you know what? Like you're getting your money's worth out.
Yeah.
So
Well, they are making some of the best bound Bibles out there. Humble
oh,
Lamb,
absolutely,
like period. Like
absolutely,
even people who like swear by like Cambridge and Style are saying that Humble Lamb, they've got something special here because this is like nothing they've ever seen before. The level of
yep,
craftsmanship in there is
yeah.
phenomenal.
And I tell you what, I've been drooling over those things for years. I've never been
Mm.
in a position where I could afford one, but given the opportunity, I mean, I reached out to them for a review copy and they ignored me. So
Yeah.
I try not to ask people for free books for review, but yeah, if I ever have that kind of loot laying around, I'll get one. Just, I'll put it on the shelf. I'll do it. And I'll probably,
Yeah.
raffle it off or something, or give it to someone that doesn't have one, whatever. But yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, when you have that kind of print quality,
Mm.
it's like,
Yeah.
so.
I did toy
Yeah, so
with
what's
creating our own sort of like premium Bible, like print, like publishing sort of thing, where it would be sort of like
hmm
Skylar but called Theosis Press, where it would take, you know, the whole sort of, the whole sort of, EOB and, thingy, and then have it in like a, goat skin edge lined Bible,
Yeah,
beautiful pages and things like that. And I reached out to Royal Youngblood for how much it would cost, and it was just stupid.
yeah.
There was no way
Well,
you'd be able to afford that.
yeah. And that's why these big publishing houses have the edge, because
Yeah,
they're printing something that's universally used, being constantly sold, and they've got hundreds of years behind them. So,
yeah,
unfortunately, my phone. I hate this. My phone's about to die. Uh,
it's fine.
I'll give it a few more minutes, but it's I'm getting
It's
to the
fine.
end of the battery
You
here.
can. We'll sort of wrap up. The one thing I did want to ask you
Sure.
is like we'll make this the last thing. I mean, just sort of going on the sort of like review side of things, where
hmm
in your opinion would be the best place to go to get a prayer rope?
Good question. Well, if you're in the States, uh, uh, St. Paisios Monastery out in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
it's a convent. They make fantastic prayer ropes. And most websites that you see, like monasteries that sell prayer ropes, are actually selling their prayer ropes.
Mm.
The other that I would say is also one of the finest stateside is a woman named Olga on Etsy,
Mm.
and she makes some of the finest prayer ropes I've come across. For the rest of the world, I don't know. I've gotten a prayer rope from an archimandrite in Lebanon that was breathtaking, and he makes them to order. But I would say support your local monastery or prayer rope maker. Etsy is a great place to look for artisans
Mm.
that just make either for fun or just because they feel compelled to do it. Stay away from big box sites, obviously, because you never know what you're getting. But if you can find a monastery or a local maker, domestic to wherever you are, search those people out and support them, because if you can verify them, chances are they're making them correctly and with prayer, uh, and at a reasonable price.
Yeah, great
So
stuff.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for your time and for having a
yeah,
chat and a nerd out over bindings and publishings and things like that. It's been
yeah.
great, and thank you for
Happy to
visiting.
do it, and no, thank you. This is my kind of conversation. So
Yeah, great stuff.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
Oh, it's all
If
right.
you
No
ever
worries.
want to do more, let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And the link to check out Orthodox Review is down in the description. Although, if you're watching me, chances are you already know Orthodox Review anyway. But thank you
I'm
so much for watching.
special.
I was not expecting that. Oh dear. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.
Bye.